Chapter 12 The Grand Congress. Jack woke up to find himself lying on his back and gazing up at a bright blue sky. He was lying on something soft and comfortable, so he naturally thought he was dead. But the angels were making a lot of noise. In fact, he wondered why Saint Peter or the Holy Ghost or someone didn't come along and tell them all to stop quarreling. This sounded like a lot of squawking birds. Birds! He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and looked around. He was sitting in the middle of the island, a little way from the reservoir and the grotto palace, and under the shade of a bush whose leaves and branches had been woven together over his head. Someone had gone to the trouble of putting a lot of soft leaves down for him to lie on, and right next to him there was a pile of fruits and nuts and berries. Food, thank goodness, he said, and ate them all up, feeling much better at once. And everywhere there were birds, giant eagles wheeling above, herons at the edge of the reservoir, jackdaws strutting up and down, skylarks and trilling in the sky, flamingos and robins, seagulls, ibises with long curved beaks, a pelican, and even an ostrich. They were flying, singing, pecking, washing themselves, fluttering their feathers, arguing, clucking, and altogether making so much noise that Jack could hardly think. But where was the scarecrow? Jack stood up and shaded his eyes against the brilliant sun and gazed all around. Near the beach, he saw his massive familiar shape striding along swiftly, talking and gesticulating to those and birds who were moving along with him. Well, I'm blowed, said Jack to himself and set off through the bushes to find out more. Jack, my boy, said the scarecrow, waving cheerfully. You've woken up at last, and how are you feeling, my dear servant? Well, I do know, master, said Jack, making his way shakily over to where his master was standing, although the birds didn't seem afraid of the scarecrow at all. They flew away when Jack came up, and he and the scarecrow were able to talk without being overheard. I suppose I'm still alive, Jack went on, and my arms and legs are all working, so I reckon I must be all right. But what's going on, master? Where did the birds come from? Ah, what happens is that every 10 years, the king and queen choose somewhere to make a nest, and then they summon all the birds to the grand congress. Very simple, you see, primitive, really suits their childish minds, but they were so pleased with the palace were built for them that they just wouldn't go anywhere else. Oh, and I made them let you stay and bring you some fruits and nuts, so on. I said I wouldn't accept their gold medal otherwise. They're going to give you a gold medal? That's wonderful, master. Yes, they were thrilled, but look, they are calling everyone together on the topmost branch of a shrub near the grotto palace. The chaffinch was calling loudly. All the other birds stopped what they were doing and flew or strutted or waddled or glided into the space in front of her and settled down to listen. Birds of every degree, the chaffinch called. Water, swimmers, flyers, and walkers. Welcome to the 84,578th Congress of all the birds. I call upon your noble president to open the proceedings and welcome our guests. An elderly pelican hopped onto a rock and spoke in a deep and sonorous voice. I declare this Congress open, he said. We have much urgent and important business to discuss, but our first task is the pleasant one of announcing the winner of our gold medal. We have acclaimed many distinguished laureates in the past, but few whose accomplishments were as varied as those of our guest today. With no regard for his personal safety, he clambered high up a stone wall to restore the fallen cheek of Dr. and Mrs. Owl to his parents' nest. Secondly, ignoring the danger of riot and pursuit, he bravely set free 5 linnets, 6 goldfinches, and 7 blackbirds from the sordid and miserable captivity. Thirdly, in the midst of a deadly battle and at a great personal risk, he carried the nest of Signora Robin to a place of safety. Lots of little birds were gazing in admiration at the scarecrow, who stood beside Jack with a pleased expression on his coconut. And finally, using the utmost resources of his architectural skill, our gold medalist built a place of jewelries for their majesties, our king and queen, to nest in. I am happy to report the appearance of 4 chicks this morning. The parents and the chicks are all very well. The birds cheered loudly. Several took off and flew around in delight before landing again. The chaffinch called for silence. All the birds fell still once more, and then he said, I now invite Lord Scarecrow to come forward and receive the gold medal and to say a few words. The scarecrow moved with great dignity between the ranks of watching birds and stood beside the president, while 4 hummingbirds flew up over the scarecrow's head and dropped a scarlet ribbon very neatly around his neck. The medal hanging from it gleamed proudly on his tattered chest. The scarecrow cleared his throat and began, Your Majesties, Mr. President, birds of every kind and degree. Everyone feels still. Jack crossed his finger. It gives me great pleasure, the scarecrow went on, to stand here today and receive this tribute. It is true, in the past we may have had our disagreements. Some of your people may have stolen. The president coughed disapprovingly and said, We don't refer to it as stealing, Lord Scarecrow. Please confine yourself to general remarks of a friendly nature. Oh, you're trying to concern me, are you? Said the scarecrow bristling. I must say, that's typical. I come here in a spirit of friendship to do you the honor of accepting this paltry babble, and you treat me like... The birds were squawking with indignation and raising their wings and shaking their heads. The president clattered his beak loudly for silence and said, Paltry babbles? How dare you? I never heard such insolence. The scarecrow was about to lose his temper. There was only one thing to be done. Excuse me, Jack called out. Excuse me, Your Majesty, Mr. President, Lord Scarecrow, and everyone. I think there's just been a bit of trouble with the translation, but we're all speaking the same language. Protested the president. There's no doubt whatsoever about the monstrous and unpardonable insult that this thing has just expressed. No doubt at all. The thing, sir? Thing? Did you call me? Cried the scarecrow, and his umbrella opened and closed in passion. Well, you see, that's just what I mean, said Jack, carefully making his way through the ranks of the birds. Mr. President, sir, it's clear to me that you're speaking in different languages. You're talking bird, which is a rich, noble tongue worthy of the great nation of feathered heroes who speak it. And Lord Scarecrow is talking coconut, which is a subtle and mysterious language full of wisdom and music. So if you would let me translate for you. And who are you? You're a human being. What are you doing here? Demanded the president. Me, sir. My name is Jack. Sir, just a boy. That's right, no more than a low servant, sir. I humble offer my services at this most dangerous time in world affairs, in the interests of peace and harmony. So if you'd just let me tell Lord Scarecrow what you're saying and tell you what he's saying, I'm sure this Congress will get on very happily. The president snorted. Well, you can begin by saying that unless Lord Scarecrow apologized for the intolerable insult, we shall have no alternative but to strip him of his gold medal and declare war. Certainly, said Jack, bowing low. He turned to the Scarecrow and said, Lord Scarecrow, the President offers you his profound apologies and begs you to regard this little exchange of words as merely a storm in a teacup. Oh, does he? Said the Scarecrow. You can tell him in return that I am a proud and free Scarecrow, unused to tyranny and the despotic rule of a set of feathered popinjays, and I shall never submit to censorship. Right, master, said Jack. He turned to the president and said, The Scarecrow presents his most cordial and earnest compliments and begs the Congress to regard his hasty words of a moment ago as being merely the natural and warm-hearted exuberance of one who has all his life cherished the highest and most passionate regard for all the nation of the birds. He asks me to add that he has never in his whole life received an honor that means as much to him as this gold medal, and he is already the holder of the Order of the Emerald Wurzel, the Betrothed Cup, and the Parsnip Challenge Trophy. What's more, he's a Knight of the Broomstick, but he'd gladly relinquish all those honors in favor of your gold medal, which he intends to wear with a full and grateful heart for the rest of his days. He said all that, did he? Said the president suspiciously. It's what they call a compressed language. Coconut, said Jack. It is. Is it? Well, if that is the case, then I am happy to accept his apology, said the president, bowing stiffly to the Scarecrow. He says he offers his most humble apology, Jack told the Scarecrow. It didn't sound like that to me, said his master. In fact, no, he was speaking in bird. Ah, I see, said the Scarecrow. What an extraordinary language. That's why you need an interpreter, master. Indeed, how lucky that you speak it so fluently. Well, in that case, I am happy to accept his apology. And the Scarecrow bowed very stiffly to the president. Seeing his display of mutual respect, all the birds broke in a storm of singing and shouting and flapping and squawking and chirping and cooing. The Scarecrow responded by beaming widely and bowing in all directions, and thus everyone, for the moment, became the best of friends. But Jack thought that they would probably need a good interpreter for some time to come. After formalities, the Congress moved on to discuss the business of Spring Valley, but the Scarecrow did seem able to keep his mind on it. Several birds gave reports of the Buffaloni Corporation's poison factory and the way they diverted the streams and drained the wells and dried up the fountains, but all the Scarecrow could do was fidget and scratch and pluck at his clothes. When they broke for a recess, Jack said, Are you all right, master? You look like a little out of sorts. I think I'm leaking, my boy, said the Scarecrow. I'm suffering a severe loss of straw. Jack had a look. It's true, master, he said. Something must have loosened your stuffing. We'll have to get you some more. What are you doing? Said the chaffinch, flying down to look. What's going on? What's the matter? Lord Scarecrow's leaking, Jack explained. We've got to find some more stuffing for him. Nothing to it. You leave it to us, said the chaffinch and flew away. I'll take all this old straw out, master, said Jack. It's been soaked and dried and battered about so much that you could do with a new filling. So you'll feel much better for it. You take my word. You take my word. He pulled out handfuls of dusty old straw, bits of twig, scraps of rag, and all the other bits and pieces the scarecrow was so full of. I feel very hollow, said the scarecrow. I don't like it a bit. I can hear myself echoing. Don't worry, master, we'll soon have you filled up again. Hello, what's this? Tucked into the middle of all the straw was a little packet of paper wrapped in oilskin. That's my inner conviction, said the scarecrow. Don't throw that away, whatever you do. Jack unwrapped the oilskin. Inside there was a sheet of paper covered in writing. Oh dear, said Jack. I hope there'd be a picture. I can't read this, master. Can you? Alas, no, said the scarecrow. I think my education was interrupted. By that time, a flock of birds had begun to fly down, each carrying a piece of straw, or a twig, or a bit of moss, and under the chaffinch direction, they packed them securely in the scarecrows inside. Each bird flew in, wove its contribution into the rest, and darted out again. They are doing some good stuffing, master, said Jack. I'll put this back down, and then they can finish it off. What's that? Said the chaffinch. What have you got there? What is it? It's my inner conviction, said the scarecrow. What's it say? What it's all about? We don't know, said Jack. We can't read. With a loud chirr of impatience, the chaffinch flew away. The other birds went on packing the scarecrow, but word had got around, and the president himself came along to have a look. Well, the little birds flew in and out. The scarecrow displayed his inner conviction proudly. You see, it's bound in oilskin, he said proudly. So all through our adventures, it's been perfectly preserved. I knew it was there, he added. I've been certain of it all my life. Yes, but what does it say, you Bobby? Demanded the president. Are you too silly to know what your own inner conviction is? The scarecrow opened his mouth to protest, but then remembered and looked at Jack for the translation. But Jack didn't have time to say a word, because a harsh caw from behind him made him jump, and he turned round to see an elderly raven fly down and land on the grass. She nodded to the president, who bowed very respectfully back at her. Good day, Granny Raven, he said. Well, where is it? She said. This paper from inside the scarecrow. Come on, let's have a look. Jack unfolded it for her, and she put a big claw on it and read it silently. Then she looked up. You boy, she said to Jack. I want a word with you. Come over here. Jack followed her to a quiet spot a little way away. I heard you about so-called translating, she said. You are a bright lad, but don't push your luck. Now tell me about the scarecrow, and don't leave anything out. So Jack told her everything that happened from the moment he heard the scarecrow calling for help in the muddy field to the moment when he'd fainted from hunger the day before. Right, she said. Now there's going to be a big trouble coming, and the scarecrow's going to need that inner conviction of his more than ever. Fold it up and put it back inside him, and don't let him lose it. But why, Granny Raven? What's this trouble? And is he going to be in any danger? I mean, he's as brave as a lion, but he's not all there in the head department, if you see what I mean. Not a sort of trouble, legal trouble, buffalo-knee trouble. Well, we can run away. No, you can't, not anymore. They're on your trail. We've got a couple of days of advantage, so we've got to make the most of it. I don't like the sound of this at all. There's a chance, said Granny Raven, but only if you do exactly as I tell you and hurry up. We haven't got a moment to lose. So, I'm going to read the rest later. It's not much now. Thanks for listening to my story, guys. Goodbye.